Hey guys, we're just gonna do another really quick Pokemon Go video today. So we're gonna show you guys all the new Pokemon that have been added in new Pokemon Go. So I'm gonna go through those right now. I'm just gonna list them, their max CP, and let's just see how long of a video this is, and I might cut down a little bit, but here we go. Okay, so we're gonna start this off with the Umbreon and Espeon. So these are the EV evolutions. The Espeon has a max CP of 3000 and the Umbreon has a max CP of 2052. Okay, on to the next. Okay, so they're also adding in Steelix. Steelix max CP is 2439 and it's the evolution of Onix. Next they're adding in Slowking, which is another option of an evolution for Slowpoke. Next they're adding in Kingdra, which is the third evolution of Seadra, and his max CP is 2424. Next they're adding in Blissey, which is the next evolution of Chansey, whose max CP is 3219. Next they're adding Belisasum. Belisasum is the other option of an evolution of Gloom, and its max CP is 2108. The next one is Crobat. It is the max evolution of Zubat, and its max CP is 2466. The next evolution is Scizor. It's the max evolution of Scyther, and its max CP is 2801. The next evolution is Porygon. Its evolution is Porygon 2, and Porygon 2's max CP is 2546. The next evolution is Politoed, upgraded from Poliwhirl. Its max CP is 2371. Next is Chikorita. Chikorita's max CP is 771. After Chikorita is Bayleef, whose max CP is 1296, and after that is Meganium, whose max CP is 2227. Next we have Cyndaquil, whose max CP is 831. Its upgraded version is Quilava, whose max CP is 1484. And then we have Typhlosion, whose max CP is 2686. Next we have Totodile, whose max CP is 1011. Then we have Croconaw, whose max CP is 1598. Then we have Feraligatr, whose max CP is 2721. Next we have Sentret, whose max CP is 519, and its upgraded version is Furret, whose max CP is 1667. Now we have Hoot Hoot, whose max CP is 640, and upgraded version Noctowl has max CP of 2040. Now we have Ladybug, 663 as its max CP, and which evolves into Ledian at 1275 high CP. Then we have Spinarak, whose max CP is 685 and evolves into Ariados, whose max CP is 1636. Then we have Chinchuo, whose max CP is 1067 and evolves into Lantern, whose max CP is 2077. Now we have Pichu, whose max CP is 376 and evolves into Pikachu. Then we have Cleffa, whose max CP is 620 and evolves into Clefairy. Then we have Igglybuff, whose max CP is 512 and evolves into Jigglypuff. Now we have Togepi, whose max CP is 540 and evolves into Togetic, whose max CP is 1553. Then we have Natu, whose max CP is 925 and evolves into Xatu, whose max CP is 1975. Then we have Mareep, whose max CP is 887 and evolves into Flaffy, whose max CP is 1402. Then we have Ampharos, whose max CP is 2695. Next we have Marill, whose max CP is 420 and evolves into Azumarill, whose max CP is 1502. Then we have Sudowoodo, whose max CP is 2065. Then we have Celebi, whose max CP is 3090. Then we have Ho-Oh, whose max CP is 4650. Then we have Lugia, whose max CP is 3598. Then we have Larvitar, whose max CP is 904, who evolves into Pupitar, whose max CP is 1608, who evolves into Tyranitar, whose max CP is 3670. Then we have Silicone, whose max CP is 2823. Then we have Entei, whose max CP is 3412. Then we have Raikou, whose max CP is 3349. Then we have Miltank, whose max CP is 2325. Then we have Magby, whose max CP is 1178 and evolves into Magmar. Then we have Elekid, whose max CP is 1073 and evolves into Electabuzz. Then we have Smoochum, whose max CP is 1230 and evolves into Jinx. Then we have Tyrogue, who's 404 and evolves into Hitmontop, and also evolves into Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Then we have Smeargle, whose max CP is 389. Then we have Stanler, whose max CP is 1988. Then we have Fanfi, whose max CP is 1175 and evolves into Donphan, whose max CP is 3022. Then we have Handor, whose max CP is 1110, evolves into Houndoom, whose max CP is 2529. Then we have Skarmory, whose max CP is 2045. Then we have Mantine, whose max CP is 2045. Then we have Delibird, whose max CP is 937. Then we have Remoraid, whose max CP is 749, evolves into Octillery, whose max CP is 2124. Then we have Carsola, whose max CP is 1214. Then we have Swinub, whose max CP is 663, and evolves into Pillow-Swine, whose max CP is 2284. Then we have Slugma, whose max CP is 750, and evolves into Magcargo, whose max CP is 1543. Then we have Teddiursa, whose max CP is 1148, and evolves into Ursaring, whose max CP is 2760. Then we have Sneasel, whose max CP is 1868. Then we have Heracross, whose max CP is 2938. Then we have Shuckle, whose max CP is 300. Then we have Quillfish, whose max CP is 1910. Then we have Snubble, whose max CP is 1124, who evolves into Granbull, whose max CP is 2440. Then we have Gligar, whose max CP is 1758. Then we have Dunsparce, whose max CP is 1615. Then we have Pineco, whose max CP is 10485 and evolves into Fortress, whose max CP is 2263. Then we have Girafarig, whose max CP is 1863. Then we have Woolbuffet, whose max CP is 1024. Then we have Unknown, whose max CP is 1022. Then we have Misdreavus, whose max CP is 1781. Then we have Murkrow, whose max CP is 1392. Then we have Wooper, whose max CP is 596 and evolves into Quagsire, whose max CP is 1929. Then we have Yama, whose max CP is 1326. Then we have Sunkern, whose max CP is 316, and evolves into Sunflora, whose max CP is 2048. Then we have Aimpom, whose max CP is 1188. Then we have Hoppip, whose max CP is 508, and evolves into Skip Plume, whose max CP is 888, and evolves into Jump Plume, which is max CP is 1553.